They say divorce is the end. I say it's only the first morning you get to truly live as yourself. The house is the same. The chair is still in the corner, but the air feels different, so quiet you can hear the clock ticking and your own heartbeat. Light slips through the curtains, touching the same familiar walls that now somehow feel foreign. You stand there, in a space that is both familiar and empty, and realize everything has changed. Make no mistake, this is not loneliness. This is the emptiness you were never allowed to have, the emptiness that, during all those years of marriage, you filled with responsibility, laughter, arguments, or simply the presence of someone else. Now, that space lays bare every thought you once avoided, every question you never dared to answer. After divorce, time doesn't heal on its own. Time simply passes. It's you and what you choose to do with this emptiness that determines who you will become. This emptiness can swallow you whole, trapping you in regret and bitterness. But it can also be the place where you begin again, where you lay down each new brick to build a life that is stronger, clearer, and more honest than ever before. This is not a journey of comforting words. This is a journey of confrontation, facing yourself, your past choices, and the road ahead. You'll learn to look back without drowning, to let go without losing, and to move forward without turning around. In this video, I'll show you how to turn that emptiness into power. Not just to stand back up, but to live a life you truly choose. A life not defined by the past, but shaped by what you do starting today. If you've ever woken up and found everything around you still familiar, yet completely unfamiliar, leave one word. Still here, so I and other men know you're not alone on this journey. When you recognize this emptiness, the first thing to do isn't to fill it right away or to run from it. What you need to do is look directly at the truth almost no one tells you. And that's exactly where we'll begin. Once you've faced that emptiness, you'll quickly realize a truth that's hard to swallow. There are things about life after divorce that no one really prepares you for. They don't teach it in school. It's not included in your friends' well-wishes, and it's almost never spoken out loud, especially to men. The first shock is the loss of a familiar role. Yesterday, you were someone's husband, the one who co-signed bills, the one who shared a bed, a kitchen, a home. Today you are a single individual, standing on the outside of what used to be a we. No more morning texts reminding you to eat. No more reason to be home on time. No one calls you babe or the kid's dad. You didn't just lose a wife. You lost an identity you had worn so long. You thought it was who you were. The truth is, after divorce, you no longer know exactly who you are. And that's a terrifying feeling. The second shock is losing direction. Every plan you had where you'd live, how much you'd save, how you'd retire, was built on a foundation of us. When us collapses, everything built on it comes crashing down too. You may still be living in the same house, sitting in the same chair, even keeping your morning coffee routine. But now, every action feels hollow, like you're acting out a role from a show that got cancelled long ago. There's no one next to you to talk to, no one to share a dream with. And worst of all, you're not even sure anymore which dreams were yours and which belonged to someone else. Losing your sense of direction after divorce isn't the same as starting over. It's like driving down a highway and suddenly all the road signs vanish. You still have fuel, still have the vehicle, but you have no idea where you're going. And then comes the third shock, the quietest, yet most dangerous, the loss of reflection. In marriage, whether it was beautiful or broken, there was always someone reflecting you back. Someone who'd tell you you're changing. Someone who'd frown when you did something wrong, or simply smile when you unknowingly did something kind. Whether positive or negative, that person was a living emotional mirror. When that mirror is gone, the world becomes far more silent than you expect. No one reminds you of the little things. No one reacts to your laughter, your glances, your presence. And in that silence, you begin to wonder, do I still matter? If no one sees me? That feeling is like standing in an empty house. The walls are still there, the ceiling is still high, but the warmth is gone. No familiar scent, no footsteps on the porch, just the echo of your own voice in a space that feels too large. And in that silence, many people make a critical mistake. They believe that accepting the truth means giving up, that if they admit they're hurting, lost, or lonely, it means they've failed. But that's not the truth. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is the first time you stop running. You stop pretending to be fine. You stop acting like everything is under control. Acceptance is standing still in the middle of the storm and looking straight at the wreckage, not to complain, but to begin rebuilding, not for anyone else, but for yourself. When you dare to face that truth, when you stop avoiding the emptiness, stop trying to fill it with rushed flings or sweet-sounding lies, that's when you take back control. No one else can heal you. No one can tell you what you should do next. But you can choose right now to clear the old foundation and start laying a new one. And that foundation isn't outside of you. It's not a new woman, not a vacation or an expensive purchase. The real foundation begins within you. Once you've faced the truth, the next step isn't to go find someone new to fill the void, and it's not to try and make someone regret losing you. The next step, and the most important one, is to rebuild yourself from within. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. When you finally face the truth and no longer avoid the emptiness after divorce, you arrive at the most critical crossroads of your life. Either you keep drifting, or you start rebuilding. But rebuild with what and from where? Not with a new relationship, not with something flashy to cover up the emptiness, but with a true foundation from within yourself. This foundation cannot be built by anyone else. No second person can step in and do it for you. And if you build it wrong, everything you try to rebuild will keep collapsing. The three pillars that form this foundation aren't distant ideas. They live inside you. And if you're brave enough to look deep, persistent enough to reach into the darkest corners, you'll realize you're not weaker after divorce. You're just returning to your true self, unpolished, unpleasing to others, and free from the weight of expectations as a husband, a son-in-law, or any image you once tried to live up to. Now, it's just you in your rawest form, and from there, everything can begin again, this time on solid ground. The first pillar, and often the most overlooked, mental health. Not everyone falls apart after divorce, but almost every man tends to punish himself afterward. You replay the things you said, the things you did or didn't do, and you ask yourself, if I had done things differently, could it have been saved? That question loops endlessly, like a broken clock never telling the right time, but always ticking. At night, instead of sleeping peacefully, you lie there and relive old scenes, her eyes as she walked away, the final words in the living room, the long silence after the door closed. But here's what you need to understand. Memories don't have the right to judge you. They are just data. You are the one using them to condemn yourself day after day, night after night. If you keep playing both the judge and the defendant, you'll never leave that internal courtroom, and your life will stay stuck there with no final verdict. To break free, you have to choose forgiveness. Not for her, not for the things that weren't fair, but for yourself, because you once did the best you could with what you had. That's not weakness, that's liberation. The second pillar is self-worth. When you're no longer someone's husband, you're forced to face a question you never had the chance to answer. Who am I, if I'm not tied to anyone? You may feel empty when no one calls you by a specific role anymore. But in that same space, you now have the chance to rewrite your definition free of any title. Your worth doesn't lie in whether you're still part of a relationship. It lies in how you choose to live when the role is gone. You can be the man who reads at night instead of watching the news. The man who walks in the early morning instead of sleeping in through emptiness. The man who does small things with discipline because you know life truly begins when no one is watching. When you start living for yourself, not to impress anyone, your inner value returns. And you'll never crave recognition again, because the first and most important validation has come from within you. The final pillar is emotional endurance. This is the hardest part, because no one teaches you how to stand firm in silence. In a relationship, whether good or bad, there's always some form of noise, a message, a sign of care, even an argument. But when all of that disappears, what you're facing isn't someone's absence, it's your full presence. You'll find yourself waking up at 3 a.m. from an old dream. You'll feel your heart race when a familiar song plays in a cafe. You'll find yourself dialing her number, then deleting it. Each one is an emotional test, and no one else can take it for you. Emotional endurance isn't about not feeling. It's about feeling everything and still staying grounded. Not denying, not suppressing, just accepting, I'm hurting, but I won't let the pain dictate my actions today. I know a man who took almost 2 years to move through this. He used to torment himself for not saving the marriage. He hit the gym as a form of escape. He laughed in crowds, but went silent when he got home. And then one day, he stopped. He stopped trying to prove anything. He stopped doing things to be acknowledged. He just did what needed to be done quietly, for himself. From that day on, he no longer needed anyone to validate his worth. If you're in this stage right now, I just want to say, you're not alone. And if you have even one small habit that brings you a bit more peace, whether it's making tea every morning or walking 10 minutes without music, share it. It might save someone watching this video who doesn't know where to begin. Because once your foundation is solid, once those 3 inner pillars have been rebuilt, it's time to build something lasting. But this time, it's for you. When the 3 pillars within you have been restored, when your mind is free of its burdens, your self-worth no longer depends on others, and your emotions are strong enough not to be pulled under by every wave of memory, that's the moment to act. Not through promises to yourself or motivational quotes on the wall, but through real steps in the real world. Rebuilding your life doesn't mean tearing everything down. It simply asks that you be clear-headed enough to begin rearranging the small pieces, the things that seem simple, but can reshape your entire way of living. The first step is to clean and rebuild your living space. Maybe you're still in the same house where your marriage once lived. Maybe you've moved out. Either way, you need to turn that space into a safe territory, a place that reflects the new man you're becoming, not by erasing the past completely, but by creating a space where you feel at ease being alone. Walk through each room as if you're selecting the details of a new life. The sofa where 2 people once sat now, it can be the spot where you read alone on a Sunday afternoon. The old photos on the wall can be replaced with images of places you want to visit or things you're striving toward. Your living space is more than walls, floors, and a roof. It's an extension of your mind. And when you reorganize your space, you're also reorganizing your head. Every item you let go of is a brick, reclaimed from the old house, to build a new one just for you. The second step is to revive your hobbies. Be honest, how many things you once loved got left behind in the relationship? Maybe it was weekend fishing. Maybe that guitar gathering dust in the garage. Maybe it was cooking without anyone judging the flavor. Hiking, running, or simply writing a few lines each night. These hobbies aren't just pastimes. They're the threads that reconnect you to yourself, and they don't require anyone's permission. When you return to these little things, you remind yourself that joy doesn't need to come from someone else. It can come from your own hands, from your steady breath while fishing at the lake, from the strings of a guitar echoing in a quiet room. Pick one small thing. Do it for no reason other than the fact that you deserve to see yourself smile without needing someone across from you. The third step is improving your physical health. The body and the mind are not separate. A mind trying to heal can't live in a body that's been neglected. You don't need to become a 6-pack man, but you do need enough strength that fatigue doesn't control your emotions. Start with the basics. Get enough sleep. Drink the right amount of water. Eat things that help you stay alert, not to escape your feelings. Exercise not to prove anything, but to remind yourself that you still have control over the most basic thing, yourself. Every morning you wake up and move your body. Even for 15 minutes, you're sending your brain a message. I'm still steering this ship. You'll be surprised how just a few weeks of physical changes can make your mind clearer, and the things that once felt blurry will start to come into focus. The fourth step, and perhaps the most important one for men after divorce, is financial freedom. Make no mistake, money doesn't buy happiness, but a lack of money definitely takes away your autonomy. Freedom isn't just a feeling. Freedom is a capacity. It's the ability to say no to what you don't want without fearing for your safety. It's being able to stand on your own without anyone backing you up. It's starting a new plan, even a small one, without needing anyone's permission. Financial freedom begins with clarity. Know your income and expenses. Cut out what drains your energy and your money. Invest in what gives you stamina for the long term. Whether that means learning a new skill to earn more, or simply stopping the spending on things that leave you emptier after buying, it all adds up. These 4 steps are not a checklist to complete in a week. This is a roadmap to reclaim your life. Not the old life, but a better, more fitting and more honest version of it. No audience needed. No applause required. Just your effort day by day, step by step, and let time reveal the results. Rebuilding your real life after divorce isn't about recreating what was lost. It's about refining, simplifying, and building anew. You'll find some things you once thought you couldn't live without are no longer necessary, and the small things you once overlooked may now become your source of strength. Every decision you make now, from letting go of an old item to working out consistently, is a new brick in the foundation you're laying. And the best part is, this time, no one has the right to touch it but you. Once you've built a steady life, not perfect, but truly yours, you might eventually consider opening the door for someone else to walk in. But this time, the rules are yours, and you will never again have to trade yourself just to stay in someone else's life. Once you've rebuilt your life, taken control of your space, your time, and your emotions, you may begin to think about something inevitable, reconnecting with others. Not because you need to, but because you want to. That's the first difference. But right at the doorstep of that intention, you need one critical rule. Any connection, this time, must come from wholeness, not from emptiness. It must be an addition, not a way to fill the void. There's one truth you have to accept. Loneliness won't kill you. But connecting with the wrong person, at the wrong time, can break you all over again. And the next time, it won't just take your feelings, it could also take the trust you fought so hard to rebuild. Before you take even one step toward someone else, ask yourself, am I seeking to share, or am I just trying to escape this silence? That's the line between a mature connection and a rushed decision. There are 3 signs you're not truly ready to love again, and if you see yourself in any of them, pause. The first sign, you're trying to prove something to your ex. Maybe it's, I'm doing just fine without you, or I deserved better than what you thought I was. If this new connection is just a performance for your ex to witness, you're not really in love with the person in front of you. You're just using them as a mirror, and that's not love. That's reaction. The second sign, you're looking for an upgraded version of her. Maybe you're drawn to someone because they do what your ex never did. They listen better, they're softer, they share more interests. Sounds logical, but here's the truth. If your main motivation is, she's not like the last one, you're still letting the past lead you. A new person shouldn't be compared like a product improvement. She deserves to be herself, and so do you. The third sign, you're more afraid of being alone than you are excited to be with someone. The difference lies in your starting energy. A person who feels whole can still want to share but doesn't need to. A person who feels lacking will cling to anyone who can help quiet the echo inside. If silence still scares you, maybe you haven't truly found inner peace yet. And if you haven't found peace alone, you'll never find it in a relationship. Remember this, your worth is not measured by whether you've found someone new or how long it takes to love again. It's measured by how clearly you know what you deserve and whether you're willing to wait for it. Don't let society, friends, or even your own impulsive emotions push you into a relationship you're not yet ready to carry. The next time you open your heart, it has to be a conscious choice, not a reflex to loneliness. It must be the freedom to share, not a bond wrapped up in pretty promises. It must be when you fully know, the rules this time are yours, and you'll never bend yourself again just to fit into someone else's life. You deserve a kind, honest love. But that love cannot come if you haven't been kind and honest with yourself first. It cannot stay if you enter it with a mindset of temporary fixes, or as a way to heal from what the last person left behind. And if you've ever lost yourself in a past relationship, then this time, make yourself one promise. You will never abandon yourself again, not for anyone. So before moving forward, ask yourself, what are the standards you will never lower again? What are the boundaries you will never let anyone cross, even in love? If you have an answer, leave it in the comments, because your words might help someone else, someone who's unsure, vulnerable, stand their ground again. And then, once you've filtered who and what is truly worthy, you'll realize this life is about more than just surviving. And in that moment, you won't just be moving on, you'll finally be living. After everything you've been through, the heartbreak, the emptiness, the rebuilding from within, the reconstruction of real life, and the careful filtering of new relationships, you are now standing on completely new ground. You're no longer the man trying to recover, no longer the one wiping away his own tears. You are the man who quietly gathered every brick and rebuilt his life in a way no one expected. And this is no longer the time to just be okay. This is the time to ignite. Most people think getting through divorce is enough, but you didn't come this far just to get through. You came here to fully live a life unbound by judgment, unchained from memory, and not asking anyone's permission to be yourself. Now, you have a privilege very few people ever get. Complete freedom to choose again. No more asking, will she approve? No more wondering what the family will think. No more fearing judgment. Oh, every decision from this point on is yours, for you, and only needs your own agreement. And the first step of fully living begins with this. You dare to go. Alone. Not because there's no one to go with you, but because you choose the journey. Picture yourself on a morning train, headphones playing an old jazz tune, mountains gliding by outside the window, and no urgency inside your chest. Traveling alone isn't proof that you're okay. It's living proof that you're no longer afraid of being alone. When you stand at the edge of a foreign city, watching the sunset from a corner cafe where no one knows your name, you'll feel it. This is not loneliness. This is freedom. And that freedom unlocks a future you once didn't think you deserved, but now you know. You always did. To live fully also means to invest in yourself again, not just emotionally, but with your energy and skills. Maybe you once abandoned a dream of starting a business, opening a small shop, learning design, or writing a book. Now is the time to do it, not to prove anything, but because you no longer have a reason to wait. Start small. Learn a new skill. Blog. Create. Teach. Whatever once made you feel alive, try it again. You don't need to succeed right away. You don't need applause. You just need to wake up each day knowing you're doing something for you. And on that day, you've already won. And then, something special happens. When you are grounded enough, real enough, and self-aware enough, you start to give back. Not with money or empty advice, but with lived truth. You become a mentor, not a title, but a presence. You're the one younger men turn to when they're lost. The one your friends call when they ask, how do I not lose myself in love? No one appoints you for that role. But you know, if you once fell and stood up again, your story could stop someone else from falling deeper. And in the moment you pass on just a spark of the fire you fought to reignite, you'll realize your painful journey wasn't meaningless. It was the light you now use to guide someone else. To live fully is no longer to count what you've lost, but to start counting everything you're about to gain. It's to look at the future not with doubt, but with a quiet belief. I've weathered the storm. Now I know how to sail. You don't need anyone to clap for this journey. You just need to know, each day, that you're walking toward yourself, not detouring for other people's opinions, not stepping back because of old fears. If you're still doubting whether this is really for you, remember this. You didn't just survive the storm. You learned how to sail. And now, you hold something many people are still searching for, a life that's not perfect, but real. A peace that's quiet, but strong enough to keep you steady when the night falls. And in the next video, I'll share something every man who's ever loved deeply needs to hear. How to never lose yourself in love again. Not to make you guarded, but to teach you how to love and still hold on to yourself. Life doesn't force you to choose between loneliness and losing yourself. It only asks that you be brave enough to hold on to yourself even when you choose to love again. But that is a conversation for next time. Today, there's just one thing you need to know. You're alive, and this time, you're fully living. You've walked with me through a journey that hasn't been easy, a journey not everyone has the courage to face, let alone walk through. But if you're still listening right now, I know one thing for sure. You're not someone who stayed down. You're someone who's standing up. We began with emptiness, that quiet space left behind after a door slammed shut. From there, you learned to face the truth, even when it hurt, even when it left you shaken, even when it forced you to let go of illusions that had once held you back. You didn't run from the pain. You walked through it. You learned how to rebuild your inner foundation, not living for anyone else, not chasing approval. You learned to forgive yourself, to recognize your true worth, and to step out of emotional chaos with a mind that's clearer, stronger. You began to take action. You reorganized your space. You brought dead parts of yourself back to life. You cared for your body not just to feel strong, but to prove to yourself that you were still in control. You returned to what truly matters. No drama, no fluff, just enough to put yourself back at the center of your own life. you also learned how to choose wisely. You no longer connected out of fear of loneliness, out of habit, or because the past pushed you into it. You now understand. Anyone who walks into your life from this point on must enter from a place of wholeness, not as a patch for an old wound. You no longer accept less than what you've come to know. You don't negotiate with disguised pain. You don't give away your whole self just to keep someone else from walking away. And then you stepped into the most important part, fully living, not just existing, not staying in the zone of doing okay. But waking up each day with a purpose, even a small one, going where you want alone, and knowing you're not lacking anything, learning something new, trying something new, and realizing that the days ahead are the days you are creating with your own hands. You began to share your story, not loudly, not for applause, but as a quiet guide, and in that, there's a power no one can take from you. This journey isn't for the hurried. It's for the brave, for those willing to face the dark in order to find the light again. And if you're still listening to these words, I just want to say, you are not just someone who got divorced. You are someone who chose to rise. You are not just someone who lost. You are rebuilding. You are not just surviving. You are living truthfully. If this video has awakened something in you, if you feel seen, understood, walked with, send this to another man, someone who is quietly fighting and no one knows, someone who's smiling on the outside but empty inside, someone who needs to hear these exact words right now. Send it, so he knows he is not alone. And if you want to keep walking this journey with me, where each video is another step toward becoming your strongest, clearest, and most peaceful self, then subscribe to this channel, not for algorithms, not for numbers, but because this is a space you can come back to anytime you need a perspective, a reminder, a truth. I've also included a playlist in the description videos that might help you go further, not just in love, but in how you live, how you love, and how you hold on to yourself in a world that's changing too fast. You don't have to start over from the beginning. You just have to start from exactly where you are. And I'll be right here, whenever you're ready.